Hello, hello. So, yeah, I want to talk about Cypress, so let's get right into it. And I want to start with a few questions in my talk. And so my first question is, you probably write tests, right? Okay. So, are your end-to-end tests slow? All right. How about flaky and unreliable? I don't want to use this rope to go climbing, right? So some flaky or some common flaky symptoms are, well, my tests are randomly failing. The test works on my machine, but on a colleague's machine it's not working. Oh boy. Or tests work locally, but all of a sudden they don't work on CI. That's a big problem, right? And flaky tests, believe me, is the biggest nightmare to all of us, right? And it's nothing more frustrating than flaky and unreliable tests, like this rope. How about this? Are they hard to maintain? What does that mean? Look at this, these blocks, you need to stack them, you need to pull out these blocks. So even smallest changes to our UI will cause automated tests to fail, right? And you start to patch them here and there, and it becomes a maintenance overhead. So it wouldn't be a big problem if it was super easy to figure out why they fail, but with most tools out there, that is unfortunately not the case, right? And it's often not the size of our tests, it's how they are written that makes it hard to maintain. So in general, non-deterministic tests, well, is a maintenance nightmare and probably costs you or your boss a lot of money. How about this? Are they hard to write? What about the APIs? Yeah, maybe it's not in the APIs in general, but it's just rather how we write our tests, right? A lot of tools require like waiting strategies, retry mechanisms, and these kind of things. Or in general APIs, take for instance Protractor. So Protractor, don't get me wrong, and every CLI project comes with Protractor out of the box, and it's totally legit to use, and it works in many, many cases, but it's built on Selenium. And when it comes to APIs, and we look at the APIs, Protractor has a lot of top-level objects. For instance, we have the browser, we have the element, we have the by API, we have all sorts of APIs, right? And it seems trivial to talk about this, but having less global objects that we have to think about just makes writing tests easier and faster, right? We don't want all these things. We want very easy APIs. So, and all of that causes friction, and friction pushes us developers to a point where we start to, I don't know, I don't have time for testing, right? So, and then, all of a sudden, we probably neglect testing at all. We don't write tests because, oh my god, it's so hard to do, right? And then we go to our bedroom and hide under the covers. That's, no, I don't want to write tests. So, if you answered one of these questions or these questions with a yes, then you probably have a problem. And you know that, probably. So, let me welcome you to the club. And it's not a small club, I can tell you that. It's actually a very, very big club. And you're not alone, you're really not alone. There are many developers that repeatedly echo how hard it is to write painful and reliable tests, right? In fact, Brian Mann, the creator of Cypress, and I haven't talked about Cypress yet, but the creator conducted a study and asked all around the globe, many developers, about feedback and what kind of challenges they want solved. And all developers all around the globe resonated with the same fundamental frustrations. And the feedback can be organized into these categories. So we have setup, writing, and management. Setup is the first barrier, and it's quite a big one. Most tools out there require a lot of configuration, and we developers even struggle to begin testing. Then we have writing. So, of course, we need to write tests. We want very easy APIs, right, that are fast and easy to write. And then last but not least, we have management. So management is all about figuring out why tests have failed. Because if we spend hours and hours figuring out why they fail, that's gonna cost a lot of money. So, well, we feel very, very sad about this. I know, well, I don't have to convince you that we all have to write tests, right? It's good, it's good. So it tests and enhances our workflow. It gives us the confidence so that we can sleep at night. I don't want to get a call 2 a.m. in the morning to fix some bug that, I don't know, shut down the whole system. You probably don't want to do that at night because we sleep. We have to sleep. So what can we do to feel better? We don't want to be sad. And that's what this talk is about. So I want to talk about Cypress. So this is what you can expect from this talk. We're going to understand the key difference between Selenium and Cypress. We're going to do some live coding, crossing the fingers. We're going to get to know Cypress. We write some basic tests. We're going to see how to work with HTTP and DOM and how easy it is. And last but not least, we're going to explore the debugging capabilities that are baked right into Cypress. So my goal for this talk is to make you super excited about Cypress. As far as I'm concerned, when I first used it, I was totally blown away because it's so awesome. And my intention is to show you how easy and enjoyable it is to use Cypress for testing. It's going to change your life. Okay, a little bit about myself. I guess I was introduced very well already. I'm a trainer at ThoughtRam. I do mostly Angular trainings. I love machine learning, Angular, reactive programming. I occasionally blog, and you can find me on Twitter. Don't hesitate to reach out to me. I also have a few Cypress stickers, so if you want them, you can come to me. So, what is Cypress? That's probably the biggest question in the room. So Cypress is an Electron-based end-to-end test runner. And the goal is to really revolutionize the end-to-end testing world. So we talked about the feedback, right? These categories, and Cypress tries to address these. Cypress allows, that's a good definition. Cypress allows for flake-free and reliable tests that run inside the browser. It provides very powerful debugging tools and a rich UI, and it's an all-in-one solution that only requires one single installation. You don't have to think about which assertion library you use. It comes with very good defaults out of the box. That's pretty awesome. Okay, so this is the testing environment, and you probably know that, and you've seen it already. At the bottom we have unit tests, then we have integration tests where we, integrate some multiple units and maybe stop some APIs, and then at the top we have end-to-end tests, which is web UI tests. And let me tell you, Cypress can do all of it. You can even test single components with Cypress, single Angular components. That is awesome. I'm super excited about this. Okay, so Cypress is often compared to Selenium, although it's substantially different. And now why is that? What makes Cypress so different compared to Selenium? Because most tools are built on top of Selenium. Okay, so let's compare those two. Let's talk about configuration. I have a few emojis here to make it a little bit more fun. So in Selenium, testing or config, it takes a lot of, you need to install language bindings, you need to configure the WebDriver and these kind of things, and you probably hit a few roadblocks on the way, and it's very frustrating, maybe. Maybe you can relate to this. Cypress, on the other hand, you can see it, the emotion speaks for itself, is awesome. You don't need any configuration because it comes with a very good default configuration out of the box. Now, browser support, Selenium supports all major browsers. Unfortunately, as of right now, Cypress only supports Chrome and Chromium-based browsers, but Firefox is in the making, and it's going to be there very, very soon. Now, but your boss tells you you have to support Internet Explorer. And then you're like, what? Internet Explorer? Yeah, but let me tell you, the plan is to also support Internet Explorer, and it's probably gonna come next once Firefox is shipped. That's great, so we can party. Yes. Okay, great. So let's continue. When it comes to of course, both are open source. Not of course, that's awesome. When it comes to the architecture, Selenium basically uses remote commands across the network to control the browser. And Cypress runs inside the browser and uses a node process for anything outside of the browser. That's great. Let's start with Selenium, and it's a very simplified version of the architecture. So we have the bindings on the one hand, which is the client basically. So you use the language binding for the language of choice, it's JavaScript, of course. And in our tests we have commands, right? We want to visit some page, we want to find some element, and these commands are converted into JSON. And those are then sent across the network to some server, which is the WebDriver. And we have WebDrivers for all different browsers, and then the WebDriver controls or forwards these requests to the browser in order to control it. So we have multiple different network hubs, yeah? And this really, so Selenium does not run inside the browser, which leads to indirect control of the browser, and hence flaky and unreliable tests, because there are a few steps involved, and on that chain, there's a lot that can happen, right? It's not always, we cannot control what's happening there on that chain. So let's talk about Cypress. This is what Cypress looks like. So Cypress has 2 instances, and unlike most tools, it runs inside the browser. That is awesome. Can you see that? Cypress sits inside the browser and runs in the same run loop as our application. And then there's another instance, which is a Node.js process, and they both communicate constantly and perform tasks on behalf of each other. This means most commands are executed right in the browser, so that allows us to access everything that is accessible in the browser, meaning the DOM, the window or document object, the local storage, service worker, you name it. And for anything that requires higher privileges, like taking screenshots, general file system operations, controlling the network, and these kind of things, that's done by the Node.js process because it has access to the underlying operating system. That's pretty cool. And once you realize how awesome this is, yeah, you figure out what you can do. This is really awesome because it runs inside the browser. The drawback to this is that because it runs inside the browser, the only language that will ever be supported is JavaScript, because JavaScript is the language that runs inside the browser. Okay, let's continue. A little bit more, and then it's going to be a little bit of code. So debugging Cypress can be a pain. But Cypress has something called time traveling. I don't know if you heard of this thing, time traveling. What is it? It kind of takes DOM snapshots along the way when executing our tests, so we can inspect every single step and inspect the DOM at a certain point in time. And we can even go back. That's pretty awesome. So it gives us a nice UI. Because Cypress runs inside the browser, we can use all the tools that we love, like the Chrome Dev tools, to get even more information about like a certain step. That's great, right? When it comes to speed, in general, Selenium is quite slow because, you know, the WebDriver is rather slow, and how the WebDriver works is also a little bit of slow. Plus, the network operating nature of Selenium also adds a little bit of delay, so that's that. Waiting for elements in Cypress, I don't know if you know it, but we have to have proper wait points and synchronization, and we have to wait for elements manually and stuff like that. Cypress doesn't require you to do that at all. It waits for elements to be actionable and visible on the page, especially if you interact with the DOM by, you know, clicking a button, typing into an input field, checking a checkbox, these kind of things. It even waits for animations to be done. Parallelizing, Selenium can do that to speed up our tests. And Cypress, unfortunately, well, with a little bit of extra effort, you can also parallelize your tests if you use Docker. But yeah, as I said, it requires a little bit of extra work. But let me tell you, in 3.1, there's going to be parallelism coming. We can speed up our test execution even more. That is awesome. But this only works on CI, so across multiple CI instances. But that's also good, right? So we go wild. Because we figured out it can be even faster. Okay, so headless browser, both support headless browser, and Selenium does support multiple browsers and tabs. Unfortunately, because of the nature that Cypress runs inside the browser, it will never support multi-tabs and also not multiple browser instances, right? You can only control one browser instance. So good so far. That's about the comparison. I guess we can look at some code. crossing the fingers. So let's see. So what I have here, I have the to-do MVC application, which is a pretty common thing for these kind of presentations. Oh, that's gonna be tough. So I have to code there. I didn't know that. Okay, so I added a few things here to make it a little bit more interesting. So I have a login. I can log in here. P-Pan for Peter Pan. Right, I can click on login. We can see the to-do MVC application. I can type something. We can see that there's an animation happening. That's nice. We just make it a little bit more interesting to show the power of Cypress. I can delete it. We see that animation. I can complete things. It's a simple to-do application. So let's write some tests. Okay, I also, where's my, there it is. Can I just, no. There it is, okay. So, okay, I have to move everything over now. This is my terminal. So this is my application and it's running. In order to get started with Cypress, all we have to do is to type npm install Cypress, and then maybe as a dev dependency. That's it. It's an all-in-one solution. That's all you have to do. It gives you everything out of the box. That's great. I've done that because I don't want to rely on the internet, although I know it's pretty fast here. So yeah, this is our package.json, and this is our only dependency that we have. So let's run Cypress for the first time. So if I type yarn end-to-end, and under the hood it really does Cypress run, or sorry, Cypress open, sorry. And if I execute this, I have to give it a few seconds. It's going to open up. I have to bring it over like this. And this is what Cypress looks like. This is the UI I was talking about. And we can see it comes with a kitchen sink, right? We have a lot of default, like some tests out of the box that show the APIs. And we can, for instance, click on one of these tests. It's going to open up a browser, a Chrome browser. Right. I don't have Wi-Fi connection. Let's take this one. This was working pretty well for me. Or not. Second is good. Or not. Let's try a third. Nope. Okay. That's not good. Oh no! Yeah. Come on, you can do it. I just want to open up this page. Here we go. You can already see it in action. That's awesome. Yes. So this is what I meant. This is Cypress running. So we have an iframe on the left. The tests are executed. We can see them in action. We can even click on these. We get more. This is one test spec. We see what's happening, all the commands. I can pin them. I could now open up the dev tools. We have very nice error messages and these kind of things. So this is what Cypress looks like, and it's awesome. It really helps you figuring out why tests fail, and it's really fun to write tests. Okay, so let's close this and open up this, and what we get is this folder structure. This is what I mean. We get very good support and onboarding experience. What I'm going to do, we have these folders. Support is for writing custom commands. We're going to see that. We have a few plugins. If you want to write your tests in TypeScript, you can do that. There's a plugin for this. And then we have the integration folder. This is the kitchen sink. And I'm going to go ahead and delete all of those because we want to write our own tests, right? I'm going to create a new file, and I'm going to call it login.spec.js. Let's look at Cypress. It watches the file system, and it already figured out that I have that spec file. That's great. So I have a template here for my login, which I'm going to put in. And One thing we can do is we have a Cypress JSON file. This is the configuration file. And I can define the base URL and I can set it to my URL, and so that I don't have to type this URL over and over again. Okay, so that's the base. So let's start to, we don't need fixtures, so let's start to write our test. First of all, we're going to do that. That was the wrong spec. Excuse me. So, all right, we have to visit our page. And there's really only one single global object, which is the side object. It's not 5, 6, 7, no, it's one. It's one single global object. And in order to visit a page, it's as easy as doing this. Since we have a base URL configured, I can do this. Awesome. Let's check our tests. This is not the application, sorry. Okay, and it works. Right? Check. It doesn't do anything. That's the before each. So, let's test if our page contains, as we know, there's some, let me log out, there's this welcome back message. I'm going to copy that and go to my test. So this is really just simple, basic test with Cypress. So I'm going to do contains, and I'm going to search for this. And some commands have built-in default assertions, so we don't have to say should, you know, some assertions. No, the contains command has a default assertion under the hood, like some other commands like route, click, and stuff like that. So let's execute our tests. Okay, this test is doing nothing, but we can see, okay, we visit the page, I can pin it, I can search for this, and there's also an assertion, so that works. That's already a first basic test. Great. So let's do something else. I want to show you how easy it is to work with HTTP. So the first step is, in order to spy on HTTP requests, we have to create a server. So I'm going to do sci.server, like server, like this. And then we're going to set up a route so we can listen for it and do some assertions. So in order to do that, I'm going to do sci.route. I'm going to listen for everything that goes to API. What do I want to spy? It's API. Wait a minute. We want to log in. I quickly have to look at my auth.login, and now I can give an alias so that I can use it for a sci.get, so I can get that request and do some assertions. So I can say as, and that's going to be my login, so alias it, and now I need to get an element. That's pretty simple. What I have here in my application, if we inspect this, is that we need to get this element and type something in. It's an input element, and I added custom attributes, like data.size. It's pretty good, because I would not use classes or IDs, because they're very likely to change and mostly used for styling. So I would go with custom data attributes that you use for your tests. So we can go ahead and just copy this and look for this in our tests. So I can say sci.get. I'm gonna ask, look, what? It did not copy. Okay, let's do it again. This, okay. I'm gonna look for an attribute that looks like this. And what do I want to type in? Well, the username, right? So I can just simply say type, oh, there's something broken, something missing. Type, I want to type in deep arm. I'm also going to blur it, so I'm going to tap out of this input field. And I'm going to do pretty much the same for the password. Right? So let's look at our test. It's running, and it's typing something in. That's awesome. How easy is that? Right? That's great. So next up, we want to click the login button. So we have to do the same. We do this. We get the login button. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm asking for the login button, and I just want to click it, like that. Now it becomes a little bit more tricky because we have to, well, inspect the status code. There's a request happening, right? If I click on it and we inspect our test, it works. But how do we inspect it? Well, that's also easy in Cypress. We can just simply say sci.get, and since we have our alias from here, I can ask for the requests and then do my assertions. So for instance, I can say should here, then I can pass in a function which takes whatever is yielded by the previous command. So this would be the request. Oh, I don't even have to do that. There's a shorthand which would be its. And its is a command that lets us access a property on the previously yielded object. And that, of course, has a status property, status, and then should be 200. Let's see that in action. It seems to work, right? Here we have the HTTP request. This is something else failing, but what I want to show you is that I can pin it down, I can open up the DevTools here, and we can inspect everything. We can look at the response object, you can go in there and inspect everything. That's great. So let's finish up this test. And we want to access the local storage, because that's probably also hard to do with Selenium. We can do the same. We're going to do pretty much this. So whatever, and then should, and then we get the request, like this. And then we can do expect. We can expect that our local storage dot get, and we're going to look for our token, should be equal to whatever is returned by our request. So we make sure that both objects are the same. So we have the request, which is the response.body.token probably, like this. Let's execute this. We're going to open up this test. Something else is failing. Why is it failing? But it's working, right? Oh, thank you very much. I was not seeing that. Yes, we need an add. If you add an alias to some object, we usually have this add sign here, or always that add sign in the beginning. So I'm getting this. This works. Let's do it again. Let's look at our test. So what is happening? There is a request going out to... Oh, I have a wrong stub. Let's do it again. See, these error messages, these DOM snapshots are pretty awesome to just inspect it. It was a fading, it's still a fading test. It says status. It says, okay. Return error because your subject is currently null. It is null. So see, that's live coding. I'm trying to figure out. We have the login. Oh, I totally forgot that this is a post request. We're getting there. No. Excuse me, what is happening here? Side up. What? Next is post, what? Let me look at my, so wait a minute, my login is off and it is a post. So, this is a post, this is my URL. Off. Huh? What? I can't hear you. No. It is a post request. See, it is. Oh, now we have a different fail. Ah, should. Oh, to be. We're getting there. No, that's correct. So where's this should coming from? I'm gonna click on it, I get more information in the, it says command should, method post, status 200. Oh! That's one bug. That's great, that's great. That's more, that's better. Because it says that they don't match. Because we expected it to be this. And let's click on this one and inspect the, that's great, that's perfect, because we see the power of Cypress debugging this, right? Totally planned. We have a response, we have the body. Access token. Right. Now. Woo! Okay, so this shows how easy it is to write tests with Cypress. I mean, come on, it helped us, it's great. No, really, it shows us how awesome this is, because the API is extremely easy. It's super easy to access local storage, to stop and intercept requests and these kind of things. So it's pretty awesome. I think I'm running out of time, I guess. I am. Can I quickly say what I love about, actually I wanted to show you that you can write custom commands, that you can just take this and put it into a custom command and then reuse it. That's also super awesome. But you can just take a look at the kitchen sink. One more thing. So, I love Cypress. Let's leave it like that, so I don't have that much time. What I really love is the documentation. It's on fire. They put so much work into their documentation. They don't just tell you, oh, these are the commands that you have. No, they tell you best practices, do's and don'ts, and some scenarios. It's pretty awesome. So I hope you're ready to go home to write some tests, and that you're all super excited about Cypress, like I am. And these are some few inspirations: the to-do MVC, a library that I've written, and a project that I'm working on, it's Machine Labs. And so thank you very much for listening to me.